Kaylin never understood why Serafina's dog hated him so much. Every time he kissed Serafina, her dog growled. He thought maybe the dog was just jealous. But on their wedding day, Kaylin learned the truth. It was Serafina's wedding night. She came to the hotel with her dog, Titus. Titus was a big bulldog, strong, dark, and serious-looking. A black car stopped in front of the hotel by the beach. The door opened, and Serafina stepped out with Titus. Titus stayed close to her, his tail still, his eyes sharp. Serafina was happy. Tomorrow, she was getting married. Kaylin, her husband-to-be, came out from the hotel doors. He smiled when he saw Serafina and quickly hugged her. He kissed her on the cheek. Suddenly, Titus barked loudly. Woof, woof, and jumped forward, biting Kaylin's trouser leg. He pulled hard and growled. Titus, stop it! Serafina shouted, trying to pull him back. Kaylin shook his leg quickly and stepped behind Serafina. He looked scared and angry. Why do you always bring this dog with you? Kaylin snapped. He nearly bit me. I'm sorry, baby, Serafina said softly. I don't want him to feel lonely. But why does he always get mad when I kiss you? Kaylin asked, upset. Oh, come on, Serafina said with a little laugh. He's just protective. No, Kaylin said, breathing fast. He's always angry at me. He isn't like this with anyone else. I don't like it. Serafina touched his hand gently. It's okay. Let's not talk about Titus now. Tomorrow is our big day. She smiled and pulled Kaylin toward the hotel. A hotel worker came and took Titus's leash, walking behind them. Kaylin stayed quiet as Serafina chatted about wedding plans. He kept looking at Titus nervously. In the elevator, Kaylin turned to Serafina. We can't live with that dog after we get married. He doesn't like me. He scares me. Serafina looked surprised. He'll get used to you. He just needs more time. We've been together for months, Kaylin said. It's only getting worse. It'll be fine, Serafina said. Please, let's enjoy tonight. No worries. The elevator doors opened to their hotel room. Serafina gasped when she walked in. The room was big and beautiful. Flowers were everywhere, balloons floated near the ceiling, and a big sign on the wall said, Last night before you say I do. Gifts and drinks were placed nicely on the table. Oh my gosh, Kaylin. This is amazing, Serafina said, hugging him tightly. Kaylin gave a small smile, but his eyes went to Titus, who sat quietly in the corner, staring at him without blinking. Serafina didn't notice. She was too happy. She had no idea something terrible was about to happen that night. Serafina hugged Kaylin again. I love you, babe, she whispered. I love you too, Kaylin said, brushing her hair back. You're everything to me. They stood together quietly. It felt perfect. Then suddenly Kaylin's phone rang. He looked at the screen and smiled. It's the groomsmen. They just got here. I'll go meet them downstairs. Go ahead, Serafina said, giving him a kiss. Tell them I said hi. Kaylin kissed her back and left the room. Serafina was alone with Titus, who lay near the bed, calm but watchful. She smiled to herself, humming as she fixed her hair in the mirror. Downstairs, Kaylin met his groomsmen and his best friend Reese. They were excited, laughing, and joking. They weren't alone. They had balloons, gift boxes, a trumpet player, and even a big heart-shaped cake. It was a surprise celebration for Serafina. Kaylin held a bouquet of red roses in his hand. This is going to make her smile, he said proudly. They followed him up the hallway. A few feet from Serafina's room, Kaylin whispered, Here's the plan. When she opens the door, I'll give her the flowers. The trumpet guy plays, then you all come in with the gifts. Got it, Reese said, smiling. Kaylin raised his hand to knock, but then he froze. He heard Serafina laughing inside. She was on the phone. Can you believe Kaylin doesn't want Titus around after the wedding? Serafina laughed hard. He thinks Titus is too aggressive with him. Kaylin frowned, confused. He lowered his hand. Serafina kept talking. He doesn't even realize Titus is just jealous. That dog thinks I'm his baby. He doesn't want to share me with anyone. She laughed again. But then her next words cut Kaylin like a knife. You know, Kaylin is always busy with work, and he can't even satisfy me like Titus does. Kaylin's mouth dropped open. His hand shook. The roses trembled. His heart pounded painfully. Inside, Serafina went on, "He's weak, boring. If it wasn't for his money, I would have left him long ago. I'll marry him, then divorce him, and take half of everything. That's the plan." Kalen felt the blood drain from his face. His legs wobbled. "And after that," Serafina said softly, "I'll go straight to Lysander. He's the only man I've ever loved." The roses slipped from Kalen's hand and fell to the floor. Everyone with him gasped. Reese looked at him in shock. "Kalen," Reese whispered. "What's going on?" Kalen didn't answer. Tears rolled down his cheeks. His whole world had just fallen apart. That night, Kalen didn't eat or sleep. He sat on the edge of his hotel bed, shaking and crying. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard Serafina's voice again. "I'll marry him, then divorce him. He can't satisfy me. Lysander is the one I love." Morning came. The sun was shining, but Kalen's world was dark. Still, he dressed like a groom, shaved, put on his suit, and walked quietly. He didn't smile. Not once. At the wedding hall, everything was perfect. Huge chandeliers, golden chairs, music playing. Guests whispered when Kalen entered. He looked calm but empty. Soon Serafina arrived in her sparkling white dress. She looked like a queen. She smiled proudly as she walked down the aisle. People clapped. She sat beside Kalen, trying to whisper something sweet. But Kalen didn't answer. His face stayed cold. Serafina's smile slowly faded. The officiator stood ready to begin. But before he could speak, Kalen raised his hand. "Wait," he said clearly. "I have a surprise for my bride." The guests clapped, thinking it was a sweet gift. Serafina smiled again, excited. But Reese and the groomsmen looked worried. Something felt wrong. Kalen stood in front of everyone. His face calm, but his heart heavy. He looked at the media team by the stage and gave a small signal. The room went silent. Everyone leaned forward, expecting a love song. But instead, Serafina's voice played loudly. "Kalen is always busy with work. He can't satisfy me like Titus does. He's weak. If it wasn't for his money, I'd have left him. I'll marry him, divorce him, and take half. After that, I'll be with Lysander, my true love." Gasps filled the hall. People whispered, shocked. Some covered their mouths. Others shook their heads. Serafina froze. Her face went pale. Her hands shook. She couldn't look at anyone. Kalen put on dark sunglasses to hide his tears. He didn't look at Serafina. She stepped back, trembling. People were still whispering. Some people were taking videos with their phones. Others just sat there, shocked. Then, without saying a word, Serafina fell to the ground and fainted. Kalen didn't run to help her. He didn't even move. He just pushed his glasses up on his nose, took a deep breath, and walked out of the wedding hall with his head held high. The moment he left, the room turned into chaos. People jumped from their seats. Some ran outside. Some were shouting. Some gasped loudly. The beautiful wedding hall was now a mess. Flowers were crushed on the floor. Chairs were pushed over. But nobody cared. Everyone was talking about the groom. The man who had just exposed the biggest lie of his life. When Kalen got home, the house was so quiet that it felt louder than all the noise from the wedding. He closed the door behind him slowly, then fell face first onto his bed. He was still wearing his suit. His glasses were still in his pocket. That's when he finally let go and started crying. He cried like a baby. Not just tears, but deep, heavy sobs that shook his whole body. His pillow became wet with tears. His heart felt like it was breaking into tiny pieces. He couldn't believe it. Serafina had used him. She lied to him. She planned to ruin him. And she did it all while smiling and calling him babe. Outside, friends and family came to his door. They knocked and begged him to open up. "Kalen, please open the door," someone shouted. "Come on, bro, let us in. We're here for you," another friend said. But Kalen didn't answer. He didn't even move. He just lay on the bed, broken and silent. Days passed. Kalen didn't eat. He didn't go to work. He didn't answer any calls, messages, or knocks on his door. He stayed inside, drowning in his pain. Over and over, he replayed the voice messages he found. He could still hear the laughter, the betrayal, Serafina's voice mocking him. "Why me? he whispered to himself again and again. What did I do to deserve this? Weeks passed. The sun rose and set, but in Kalen's home, it always felt like night. His family tried to help. Friends came with food. His best friend Reese even brought a counselor to talk to him, but Kalen refused to see anyone. His body became weak, but his mind was burning with one thought. How can I make her feel what I felt? How can I get revenge so she'll never forget it? And how will I ever find someone who truly loves me? Not for my money, not for my name, but for who I really am. He didn't have the answers yet, but one thing was clear. He would not stay broken forever. Something inside him had changed, and when he finally stood up again, he wouldn't be the same Kalen. After all the shame and heartbreak, Kalen just wanted to disappear. He was tired of the stares, tired of people pointing fingers, tired of whispers following him everywhere he went. Some people acted like they felt sorry for him, but most just laughed behind his back. He had become the groom who got betrayed at the altar. A joke. A story people told for fun. So Kalen made a decision. He packed a small bag of clothes. No fancy suits. No expensive things. He didn't even tell Reese. He moved far away to a small town where no one knew his name. He rented a simple one-bedroom house in a quiet street. The roads were dusty. The people were kind. It wasn't fancy, but it gave him peace. Kalen started living a simple life. He stopped wearing designer clothes. No shiny watches. No expensive shoes. He dressed like an ordinary man. Every day, he would walk to the Corbinet or a small cafe nearby. There were no cameras. No rumors. No whispers. Just peace and fresh air. One cloudy afternoon, Kalen was walking to a shop. He crossed a muddy corner. Suddenly, a car drove by fast. Splash. Dirty water flew all over him. Kalen stood frozen, dripping from head to toe. He looked like someone who had fallen in a puddle. The car stopped a few steps ahead. A young woman jumped out and ran toward him. "I'm so sorry, sir," she said quickly. "I didn't see the water. Please forgive me." Kalen looked at her. Her voice was soft, and her eyes looked so worried. "It's fine," he said calmly, wiping mud off his clothes. But the woman didn't leave. She ran back to her car, opened the door, and grabbed a clean towel. She hurried back to Kalen and started gently wiping the mud off his clothes. "It's okay," Kalen repeated. "You should go. I'll be fine." "Are you sure?" she asked softly, still worried. Kalen nodded. "Thank you," she whispered and gave him a sweet smile before rushing back to her car. She drove away quickly. Kalen stood there in the street, soaked and cold, but shocked. She was kind, he whispered to himself. Not many people would do that. He wished he had asked for her name or number, but it was too late. She was gone. Weeks passed, but Kalen kept thinking about that stranger with kind eyes and a warm heart. Then one Saturday afternoon, Kalen was walking out of a local mall with a bag of groceries. He stepped outside and froze. There she was, the same girl. She was laughing with a friend. Her hair was tied in a bun. She wore a simple dress, but looked even more beautiful in the sunlight. Kalen's heart started beating fast as he walked closer. She turned around and their eyes met. "Oh, it's you," she said, smiling. "I didn't think I'd see you again," Kalen said, trying to hide his excitement. They both laughed. "This is my best friend Eloan," she said, pointing to the girl next to her. "And I'm Kasha. What's your name again?" "I'm Kalen," he said. "It's nice to finally meet you properly, Kalen," she said kindly. They talked for a few minutes, laughing and smiling. This time, Kalen didn't miss his chance. "Can I have your number?" he asked. Kasha smiled and handed him her phone. They exchanged numbers. From that day, they talked every day. Morning texts, evening calls, weekend chats. For the first time since his wedding disaster, Kalen felt something warm in his heart. It wasn't love yet, but it was hope, a spark. Kasha was different. She listened to him. She asked about his life but never his past. She was kind, funny, and honest. She never judged him. But Kalen didn't know that another storm was coming. One evening, after a long phone call, Kalen finally asked her, "Would you like to go out with me this weekend? I'd love to take you somewhere special." Kasha laughed lightly. "Yes, I'd love to." But then her voice became soft. Would it be okay if I bring someone along? Who? Kaylin asked. My best friend, Eloan, the one you saw at the mall. Kaylin paused, but he didn't want to seem rude. Oh sure. That's fine. Are you sure? She asked again. Yeah, Kaylin said with a little laugh. But deep down, something in his heart whispered, be careful. He didn't know that saying yes would change his life. The day of the outing came. Kaylin woke up early. He was nervous but excited. He put on his cleanest shirt and combed his hair neatly. He didn't have much anymore, but he still wanted to look good. He got into his old, small car. The paint was fading. The radio didn't work. It made a strange noise when it started, but it ran and that was enough. He drove across town and followed Kasha's directions. When he arrived at her house, he honked once. Kasha looked out the window. When she saw the car, her smile disappeared. She turned to Eloan. Is this the car he brought? She whispered, frowning. I can't get in this thing. It's embarrassing. Eloan looked at the car and then at her friend. Come on, Kasha. There's nothing wrong with it. It's old, but not terrible. Kasha crossed her arms. I'm not getting in that. Eloan sighed. Please, let's just go. It's about the person, not the car. After a long pause, Kasha rolled her eyes and grabbed her purse. She followed Eloan out. They got in the car. Hi, ladies. You both look great, Kaylin said politely. Thanks, Eloan replied kindly. Kasha barely muttered a word. Kaylin didn't notice. He was too focused on making the day special. He drove them to a cozy restaurant. It wasn't expensive, but it was clean and peaceful. They sat at a table near the window. The waiter came. What would you like to order? He asked. Just rice and water, please, Kaylin said with a smile. Kasha raised her hand and leaned back in her chair. I'll have rice, grilled chicken, grilled fish, a side salad, dessert, and your most expensive wine. Eloan blinked in shock. That's too much, she whispered to Kasha. Kasha ignored her. Eloan ordered simply, just rice and water for me. When the food came, they ate quietly. Eloan noticed Kaylin was eating slowly and carefully. Something felt off. When the waiter brought the bill, Kaylin opened his wallet and started counting money. His heart sank. It wasn't enough. He leaned toward Kasha and whispered, Please, I'm short. Can you help me just a little to pay the bill? Kasha's face twisted. You brought us out knowing you didn't have enough money? She said loudly. Eloan gasped and pinched her under the table. Stop it. You're embarrassing him, she whispered. Kaylin looked down in shame. People at nearby tables stared. Eloan quickly reached for her purse. She pulled out some money and whispered to Kasha, Take this. Give it to him. No, Kasha said, crossing her arms. Eloan leaned forward and handed the money to Kaylin directly. Here, Kaylin. My friend said I should give this to you. Kaylin hesitated but took it and whispered, Thank you. He added it to his money and quietly paid the bill. Outside, he forced a smile as they got back into his car. The engine coughed but started. As they drove home, they stopped at a red light. Suddenly, a shiny white car pulled up next to them. The driver honked. Beep, beep. Kasha looked over. The man in sunglasses and a gold chain smiled. Hey pretty, he said. Can I talk to you? Kasha smiled back. She didn't even look at Kaylin. Hold on, she told Eloan, then stepped out of the car. She chatted with the man. They laughed. She even gave him her phone number while Kaylin sat quietly, watching in the rearview mirror. When she came back, she said nothing about it. Thanks for the outing, she muttered coldly. Thank you, Kaylin. I had a nice time, Eloan said kindly. Kaylin nodded silently and drove them home. Kasha walked away without even saying goodbye. Eloan stayed behind. She turned to Kasha. What you did wasn't okay, she said softly. Kasha shrugged. What? If he can't afford an outing, that's not my fault. You embarrassed him, Eloan said angrily. You humiliated him over food. Then you gave your number to a stranger in front of him. That was cruel. Kasha rolled her eyes. Whatever. He's broke. Eloan shook her head. As they walked inside, Eloan couldn't stop thinking about Kaylin's quiet face. How hard he tried. How embarrassed he was. How much pain he was hiding. She knew something bad was coming. Someone was about to push Kaylin past his breaking point. Months went by. Even after that awkward dinner at the restaurant, Kaylin and Kasha still talked. Maybe Kaylin kept talking to her because he hoped things would get better. Or maybe he felt lonely. He still wanted to believe there was something good between them. They sent each other messages, called each other, and met a few more times. Kaylin thought they were becoming closer, step by step. Kasha wasn't always kind to him, but Kaylin ignored it. He told himself she just needed more time. Maybe she would change. Maybe she would see past his simple life and love him for his heart. One sunny afternoon, Kaylin went to Kasha's home. They sat on her small couch. Kasha sipped juice and scrolled through her phone while Kaylin nervously picked at his fingers. He finally spoke from his heart. "Kasha," he said softly, "if I ask you to marry me one day, would you say yes?" Kasha stopped. She looked at him slowly. Then she suddenly burst into loud laughter. "Marry you," she said, laughing even harder. "Like this? The way you are?" Kaylin's heart sank. He blinked, wondering if she was joking. "I don't blame you," Kasha said as she stood up. "I blame myself for even talking to you, for letting you come to my house. You're just a poor broke man." Her words burned like fire. Kaylin sat still. He felt something break deep inside his heart. At that moment, Eloan walked in from the next room. She had heard the yelling. "What's going on?" Eloan asked, looking at both of them. Kasha folded her arms. "Can you believe this poor man wants to marry me?" Eloan was shocked. "Is that why you're yelling?" "Kasha, what's so bad about that? Why is it wrong for him to want to marry you? Then marry him yourself." Kasha snapped. "If you like him so much, take him. I'm not stopping you." Eloan turned to Kaylin. His eyes were wet, and his face looked empty, but his heart was breaking. "I would marry him," Eloan said firmly, "if he wanted me." Kasha smirked. "Does he even have a choice?" she sneered. "Stop it, Kasha," Eloan said sharply. "Enough." Eloan sat down next to Kaylin. Her voice became gentle. "Kaylin, don't listen to her. I'm sorry. I know her words hurt, but don't let them break your heart." Kaylin looked up slowly. "Do you think anyone could truly love me the way I am?" Eloan smiled softly. "Yes, Kaylin. Many women would. You're a kind, handsome man. You have a good heart. That's more important than money." Kaylin stared at her. "Would you?" he asked quietly. "Would you build a family with me?" Eloan swallowed. She hesitated. "I would have said yes," she whispered, "if I knew you really liked me." "I do," Kaylin said quickly, "since the day we went out. But I didn't want to come between you and your friend." Kasha rolled her eyes. "You two can do whatever you want. Date, get married, I don't care." She grabbed her purse and walked to the window. Just then, a white luxury car stopped outside. The car's engine purred like a lion. It looked expensive. The door opened and Corbin stepped out. The same rich man Kasha had met before. He held designer shopping bags full of clothes, shoes, perfumes, and shiny boxes. "Baby, I'm here," Corbin called. "Corbin!" Kasha screamed with joy. She ran to the door, hugged him, and started opening the bags. Corbin glanced inside the room and saw Kaylin sitting beside Eloan. "What's going on here?" he asked with a smirk. Kasha laughed and flipped her hair. "Can you believe this poor guy wants to marry me?" Corbin burst into laughter. "This one? This broke man?" he mocked, pointing at Kaylin. "He doesn't even know his place. Look at him. So basic." Kaylin lowered his eyes. The pain was deep, but he stayed quiet. Eloan had enough. She stood up quickly and faced Corbin. "I don't care how much money you have," she said firmly. "You don't get to insult someone in front of me, especially not him." Corbin raised a brow. "And who are you?" "Someone who values people for their heart, not their wallet," Eloan snapped. "Unlike you." The room went quiet. Kasha looked embarrassed for a moment, but quickly grabbed Corbin's arm. "Let's go," she said. "These people are not on our level." They stormed out together, laughing as if nothing had happened. Kaylin sat there, broken and humiliated. Eloan sat next to him, gently touching his hand. "You don't deserve this," she whispered. "You deserve real love." Kaylin turned to her, his eyes full of tears. And you, he said softly, you're the first person who's made me feel seen. Aloan smiled faintly. In that quiet, painful moment, something stronger than words passed between them. From that day, when Kasha walked out with Corbin, something inside Kaylin changed. He stopped thinking about Kasha and started noticing Aloan. Really noticing her kindness, her strength, her honesty. She had defended him when he was humiliated. She had stood by him when he had nothing. She never asked for anything in return. Over time, Kaylin and Aloan grew very close. They laughed together and talked late into the night. Aloan would surprise him with small gifts, a shirt, a simple watch, snacks he liked. She even gave him money when he needed it and never asked for it back. She loved him deeply, even when he had no car, when his shoes were worn out, and when other people ignored him. Their love grew like a quiet fire, strong and pure. But Aloan didn't know Kaylin was keeping a big secret. One evening, Kaylin called her. Hey, he said softly. I want to take you out. Please dress nicely. I'll come pick you up. Okay, Aloan said with a smile. What's the occasion? You'll see, Kaylin replied. The day came. Aloan wore her best dress, a soft peach gown. She brushed her hair, put on a little makeup, and waited outside her house. The sun was setting, and a soft breeze blew. Suddenly, the ground began to shake slightly. Vroom vroom. A long line of expensive black SUVs and sleek luxury cars drove down the road like a royal parade. Aloan froze. The cars were shiny, and some had guards in black suits inside. Tiny flags waved on the hoods. The first car stopped in front of Aloan's house. A man in a black suit stepped out and opened the back door. Out stepped Kaylin. He wore a dark blue designer suit, shiny shoes, and a gold watch. His hair was perfectly cut, and he smelled amazing. Aloan gasped. Kaylin, what's going on? Kaylin smiled gently and walked toward her. I'm not who you think I am, he said. I'm not poor. I never was. Aloan's mouth fell open. These are my cars, my staff, my security, Kaylin said calmly. I wanted to see if someone would love me for my heart, not my money. Aloan couldn't speak. Kaylin took her hand. Come with me, he said softly. Still shocked, Aloan nodded. Kaylin opened the car door for her and she stepped inside. The convoy of cars began to move. Inside, Aloan's voice shook. You mean you're rich? You're not just a helper? Kaylin chuckled. No, Aloan. I own companies. I chose to live simply to protect my heart. But why pretend? She asked. I had to be sure, Kaylin said. Kasha only cared about money. But you loved me when I had nothing. Aloan looked down, still stunned. Where are we going? She whispered. You'll see, Kaylin said with a smile. The cars pulled up to a huge hotel with a 5-star restaurant inside. Golden lights glowed, and tall doors opened as staff bowed. Welcome, Mr. Kaylin, they said. Aloan stared. They know your name? I own part of this place, Kaylin said calmly. Her jaw dropped. He led her through a sparkling lobby where a piano played softly. Waiters in white gloves stood ready. They entered a private hall with chandeliers, roses, and gold decorations. Across the hall, Kasha and Corbin sat at a table. Kasha's eyes widened. Is that Kaylin? And Aloan? Corbin raised an eyebrow. Who invited him here? Kasha said loudly. How did he get that suit? It must be borrowed. Corbin chuckled but said nothing. Kaylin and Aloan walked toward the stage. Aloan held his hand tightly. Kaylin, what's happening? She whispered. You'll see, Kaylin said. Corbin stood and walked over with Kasha following. Good evening, boss, Corbin said respectfully. Aloan's head snapped up. Boss? Kasha blinked. Wait, what did you say? I said, good evening, boss, Corbin repeated. Kasha laughed nervously. Boss. You're calling him boss? Yes, Corbin said calmly. I'm one of his drivers. Kasha froze. You're not rich? She asked him. No, Corbin replied. That white car is his. He owns many. Aloan stood frozen, trying to take it all in. Corbin continued. He asked me to act rich to test you, Kasha. To see who you really were. Kasha covered her mouth. Her face went pale. You set me up? She asked Kaylin. I gave you a chance, Kaylin said. I wanted to see if you'd love someone with nothing. You showed me who you are." Kasha's voice shook. "I made a mistake." "That's the point," Kaylin said. "You shouldn't need to know someone's money to treat them kindly." Kasha sat down shaking. Aloan turned to Kaylin shocked. "You planned this?" Kaylin gently took her hands. "Yes. But not to hurt you. I wanted to find someone true. And I found you." Aloan's eyes filled with tears, not from sadness but from happiness. "You meant everything you said?" Kaylin smiled warmly. "Aloan, you gave me your heart when I had nothing. You treated me like gold when I looked like dust." Kasha sat frozen in her chair. Her hands were shaking. She looked up at Kaylin, then slowly stood and walked closer to him. Her voice was soft, shaky, and full of sadness. "Kaylin," she whispered, "I'm sorry. I made a big mistake. But we can still fix this. We can go back to the way things used to be." Kaylin turned to her. His eyes were calm, and his heart felt steady. "It's too late, Kasha," he said gently. "I waited for you to see me for who I really am, but you never did." Kasha opened her mouth, but no words came out. Then Kaylin turned to Aloan. He took a deep breath and knelt down on one knee. Gasps filled the big hall. Everyone was surprised. Aloan covered her mouth in shock. Kaylin pulled out a black velvet box and opened it. Inside was a beautiful diamond ring that sparkled under the golden lights. "Aloan," Kaylin said with a steady voice, "please marry me. Let's build a family together. A family full of love, not lies." Aloan's heart was beating fast. Her hands were shaking. She was so surprised she couldn't speak. But before Aloan could answer, Kasha screamed, "No, don't do this." She stepped forward and shouted, "Aloan, please. Remember, he was with me first. He was my boyfriend. Say no. Please don't do this to me." Aloan looked at Kasha with sad eyes. "I'm sorry, Kasha," she said softly, "but I'm already in love. He didn't choose me because he rejected you. He chose me because I loved him when he had nothing." Tears rolled down Kasha's cheeks. Aloan turned to Kaylin and held out her hand. "Yes," she whispered. "I will marry you." The hall exploded with cheers. People clapped loudly. Some guests even stood up, smiling with joy. Kaylin carefully slid the ring onto Aloan's finger. Then he stood up and hugged her tight. They kissed, holding each other close, surrounded by love and applause. But Kasha snapped. "No," she screamed. She grabbed the edge of a table and pulled it down. The table crashed loudly as wine glasses and a bottle of red wine fell to the floor. Glass shattered everywhere. Kasha grabbed a chair and tried to throw it, but before she could, security guards rushed in. Two big men grabbed her arms as she kicked and screamed. "Let go of me," she yelled. "You don't know what you're doing." "Ma'am, please calm down," one guard said. "Take her outside," the hotel manager ordered firmly. The guards dragged her out as she screamed and struggled. The crowd stood silently, shocked by what had just happened. "Call the cleaner," someone in the back said. "This place is a mess." A few minutes later, the door opened. A young woman walked in quietly. She wore a faded apron and carried a mop and bucket. Her hair was tied back, and she looked very tired. Her clothes were old and worn. She didn't look like she belonged in such a beautiful hotel. She slowly walked toward the broken glass and spilled wine. But when she looked up, she froze. "Kaylin," she whispered in a shaky voice. Kaylin turned around. The room went quiet again. His eyes went wide in shock. It was Serafina. She was his ex-fiancée, the one who betrayed him, the one who had planned to marry him just to steal his money, the one who left him broken and alone. But now she looked completely different. Her face was pale. Dark circles were under her eyes. Her once glowing skin was dull and dry. Her hands shook as she held the mop. She looked older, much older than she really was. She looked like someone who had suffered for many years. Serafina slowly dropped the mop. The bucket of water shook in her hand. Tears filled her eyes. She stared at Kaylin, her lips trembling. Then, without saying another word, she turned and ran out of the hall. Her apron flapped behind her as she ran down the hallway, her face red with shame and wet with tears. Aloan turned to Kaylin, confused. "Who was that?" she asked. Kaylin stared at the door Serafina had run through. Then he looked back at Aloan and said softly, She doesn't matter anymore. All that matters now is you. Aloan smiled, her heart full of happiness. Kaylin hugged her tight. They held each other close like nothing else in the world mattered. And in that quiet moment, after all the heartbreak, betrayal, and pain, Kaylin finally felt whole again. Where are you watching from? Don't forget to like, share, and most importantly, subscribe.